Okay, welcome back to panel two of our event tonight. It is fantastic to be joined by these four smiley faces on a Thursday night. I'm going to cut straight to it. And Amjad, I know you're juggling celebrations, family celebrations, faith celebrations, and World Book Day. So thank you for squeezing us in to your manic schedule. Do you want to kick off by saying hi to everyone and telling us about your latest book?
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello everyone else on the panel. Hello Hannah. So my book, Little Guide for Teachers, part of the Little Guide for Teachers series. We've got another author on the panel here, part of that series. That in itself, Hannah, is fantastic to see how that whole series has diversified and how that whole series has increased representation. Because, for example, on the back of my book, the three other books available are Purvi, Yamima, and Omar. And I don't think you'd see that very often. So a book out here, and then on the back, the three other books that you could buy, also by people like me. So that's what I'm talking about. We've got there. Not only have we got there, we brought other people up there with us as well. But I do have to talk a little bit about this book and the reason why I had to write it as part of this series. Send in School, I know we got an expert, Francis, on the panel here as well. Send in School is so important and it's not a trend. And people like Francis and myself have been talking about it for a long time. And everyone kind of thinks that we bought these books out at a time where it hit perfectly and we timed it. We're not that organized. We were writing about it anyway. We were talking about it anyway. And it just happens to have become a trend that people are talking about a lot, right? But not only that, and I could base this on quantifiable measures. If I held up my book in a whole crowd of people that I'm delivering inset to, and it was the size of this book, which I've just got from the library. It's not about the author, it's just the size of the thickness, right? This is a book about autism. And if I say to you, here you go, can you buy a copy of my book? They'll go, nah, I'm all right, mate. I'm good. I said to them, look, I've got a little book. It won't take you long to read. A few little bits in there, little low effort, high impact teaching learning strategies. But really what they don't know is the font's really small. So it's actually packed full of loads of stuff, right? But we had to be strategic with writing a book about Send in School. And one of the hardest things about writing this book was what I think every author will talk about was the idea of my words turn to permanence here. So people will quote you and people will say, but you said this. And I went to one inset day and the lady was like, I especially like what you wrote on page 12. And I was like, page 12, what do I say on page 12? And you know, that idea is fascinating, that and then that scares you. Then you're like, whoa, hold on. Should I write that? Can I write that? Will I write that? But essentially it's just a book which is I've written it in a conversational tone. I write the first couple of pages. I take the mic and I say, look, I'm going to write formally to prove to you I'm an English teacher. And then I move into conversational tone. And then I write in that way because I want it to feel like somebody's having a chat with me and I'm talking to them. But it's full of low effort, high impact teaching learning strategies for Send in School. And I think I'd love to do this in about 10 years' time, to re-release this book and not call it Send in School and just maybe call it Teaching and Learning in School and see what the reaction will be. So that's my little book. I don't know if that's enough or what else. Or
I've never known you not to fill your whole time slot before, Amjad. Is there anything else
no,
you want to
Francis
add
is here. I
about
need to give
how
her more
you
time.
got found by... But how did the publishers find you? Were you approached? Did you approach them? How did that bit happen?
Interestingly, I'm writing my second book now, which is on neurodivergence in school. It's not part of the same series, but it's basically going to be the same effect, like a small, actionable, dip in and out kind of book. Crown House, bless them, got in touch with me. Oh, I don't even want to say because it's that bad. Like maybe 2016, 2018, saying, Amjad, you need to write a book. And those days you were like, what? And they took me out for dinner and everything. And I was like, wow, I signed a contract. They put my website together for me. And then I was just scared constantly. I was like, no, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. And then this series come out and I was like, look, I could smash this series out. Delana, who is also a Black editor, so you don't get many of them either. And she was fantastic. Just look, here you go. Here's what to talk about. Here's what to write about. But and other people like Francis especially will know this. When you write about Send, they don't really challenge you on much because they're like, well, you should know. So it's just like, well, I think that's right. And then you're just bouncing those ideas across. But yeah, it was fantastic to work for. And then I've gone back to Crown House now. I'm writing my second book with them. But editors are, they're there to just kind of push and probe and like tell you, and you know me, Hannah, because you've been my head teacher before. I need a little bit of massaging here and there. You know, this is good, this is okay, and I'm like, all right, thank you. Then I could carry on going. Kids are the same, aren't they? I write like I'm a child. I need that. You know, tell me it's going all right, and then I could keep going. But yeah, it's scary though.
I'm
It's
glad.
scary.
I'm glad you mentioned book one. I worked with Amjad for 2 years, and for 2 years we talked about a book that I still haven't seen
Yeah,
printed.
yeah.
So I was very
Yeah,
proud to finally see this book come to fruition, Amjad. Glad to hear you got another one in the birthing. So thank you. I'm going to swing over to your colleague Francis. Fantastic to have two of BayMed on this panel. Francis, great to see you. Tell us all about the book that you've published recently, please.
Oh, well, my book's called Be an Ally, Not a Bystander. And you know what? It's interesting because I think coming from the starting point of race, people assume that it's going to be a book about race when we're talking about allyship. And I was really intentional to talk about all allyship. You know, what does it mean to be a Black woman who's neurodivergent at the same time? You know, when thinking about those anti-bullying, thinking about discrimination, thinking about the experiences of our children in education, and what does that look like? And it's really interesting because I've made it kind of like from my own experiences, but thinking about educators and what they need to learn, and actually saying to people, we hold a lot of bias as educators. So what does that mean in your classrooms? What does bias mean? What does conscious bias mean? What does unconscious bias mean? And really break it down and explain it to people, because I was thinking all the terms that I'd like to know and make sure that I'm getting right, this is what I'm doing for other people. So, you know, it's really interesting hearing like what Amjad was saying about his book and like the journey that I had to publishing mine. So I was basically a lot more, when I left headship, I became a lot more active on LinkedIn, just talking about my story and being open about my story. And I was approached by the publishers just to say, you know what, we'd really like you to write a book on SEND initially. And I was like, I knew Amjad had his book coming out. I was like, and specifically around dyslexia, I was like, there were so many books at the moment around dyslexia, and around SEND. Like, that's not the area that I want to focus on at the moment. I was thinking about the broader issue about discrimination and bullying in schools. And I ended up doing a workshop in a school. I was asked to do a workshop because they had some issues around discrimination and bullying. And I said, look, I don't come in and do one-off workshops. That's not my style. It doesn't work. You know, there are so many people that you can call in, do a workshop and leave, but what's the impact? And I said, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to your staff, I'm going to talk to your class teacher, and I'm going to talk to the children themselves. So everybody gets that understanding of what allyship is and how they should stand up for each other. And it was just phenomenal. You know, being a head teacher was a joy. Working in SEN for so many years was a joy, but doing a workshop like that and starting off that kind of work and seeing the impact it's had has been absolutely amazing. And just being able to talk to people about how they can teach young children how to be allies has just been amazing. So my book, I'll hold it up again, is like the whole point. Someone said to me, why did you write your book? And I said, to change the world. And that's literally what my aim is. I don't care whether it's too big or too small. That's what it's about. So yeah. Hi.
Love it. Hello. Thank you very much, Francis. I'll come back to you some questions to dig into that further in a minute. I'm going to swing over to Nicola. Hi, Nicola. It's good to see you.
Hello. Good to see you too. Hi. So
over to you. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so my book is Mindful Little Yogis. I don't know if you can see that very well. There you go. Mindful Little Yogis, self-regulation tools to help children with special needs breathe and relax. So my background, as well as yourselves, I worked as a primary school teacher initially. And when I was doing my PGCE, I fell in love with the SEND side of things. So I did my placement there and then got my first job as an NQT in a special needs school. And absolutely loved it. There was a lot of intervention, lots of children getting lots of support because I worked in a private school at the time. And I thought all schools were like that. Music therapists, occupational therapists, ed psychs on tap. And then when I left that field and went into mainstream, I was in for a shock. And what I did, I used all of the skills that I developed when I was working in SEN to actually bring it into mainstream. I was using a lot of mindfulness, a lot of self-regulation tools and lots of strategies. And at the time I was writing a blog called The Journal of Miss H, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was all about mindfulness strategies for children with special educational needs, because there's obviously high levels of anxiety, overwhelm and stress. And then was approached because of my blog. I had a breathing activity blog about writing a book for them. And this was part of Jessica Kingsley, which is now Singing Dragon, part of Hachette, the international publishers. And it's available in the States as well as the UK and worldwide. The book itself has self-regulation tools and strategies. It's basically saying that children with special educational needs also require mindfulness activities. It's not that they're separate. We need to be using breathing activities, self-regulation, whether it's looking at the therapeutic benefits of breathing in a certain way, or jumping up and down on a trampoline. How does that young person feel before and afterwards? And just being creative. I used to work with a lot of non-verbal kids that were unable to express their emotions. So I would use things like the zones of regulation in the classroom to help, get them into the green zone when they were ready. So the book itself is almost like a breathing directory with different breathing activities framed under the STAR model: stop, take a breath, and relax. And the take a breath is all the breathing activities with different therapeutic benefits for neurodivergent children. And then the other parts are some self-regulation tools to help build emotional regulation, confidence, and just help them feel more grounded in day-to-day situations. It's targeted at teachers and parents to use at home or in the classroom. So yeah, that's my book. Yeah, hopefully that's given you enough information. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, brilliant, fabulous, thank you. You all leave me loads of time for questions, so this is great. I'm going to swing over, and I don't know whether it's V or Vi. We've not actually met before. We've emailed. How do I pronounce your name? Purvi or Purvi?
So my name is Purvi, but people say Purvi, which doesn't sound quite right. So it sounds like, no, that's not my name. It's Purvi or V. V is fine, so I stick with V.
Hi V, it's so nice to finally meet you and have you on the screen.
It's really nice to meet you. And thank you for including me in this. And I'm so glad. I'm just so happy with all of this. I'm really excited to tell you a little bit about my little book.
Brilliant. Over to you then, V. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, okay, so my name is Purvi, or V, and I'm a chartered psychologist and a fellow, and well, I've been teaching for 20 years, so I've had 20 years of experience. My career journey began when I was working as a clinician, a psychologist in the United States, specializing in child and adolescent mental health. And then when I moved to the UK, I transitioned into teaching. So I taught psychology and health and social care and a whole bunch of other different subjects, GCSE, A-level, in state school, and also in independent schools. So fundamentally, I believe that educators are absolutely the linchpin of society. And we are all in a very privileged and powerful position to make a difference. All of us can. Every educator can make a significant and meaningful contribution to the mental health, the SEND, or the mental health of their students, of their school communities, and then of society. We are in that position. By mental health, I don't mean mental ill health. I don't mean depression and anxiety and all of that. I mean mental health and fitness, mental strength. So there's many definitions: mental health, well-being, psychological fitness, loads of definitions of it. But I like the World Health Organization's definition, which says that mental health is a state in which individuals realize their own abilities, including their abilities to change and grow, that they can work fruitfully and productively, that they can cope with the regular normal stressors of life, and that they can make a positive contribution to the community, like the allyship and the bystander allyship, all of that stuff that I also talk about. So these are the 4 elements. Now, whether we realize it or not, as educators, our daily interactions shape our students' well-being. And that's why I thought that this little book for teachers was absolutely, it's absolutely powerful. This is because it provides practical, evidence-based strategies new research, psychological research, positive psychological research, to help enhance the mental health of our students. But not just the mental health of our students, but by using the strategies in this book, it also strengthens our mental health as teachers and as educators. So the reason I wrote this book, the inspiration of the book, comes from my experience in applying the positive psychological concepts in my classroom for more than a decade. And I'm a social scientist. I measure the impact of my work. There's no point doing something if we don't know whether it works. So the information in this is based on both secondary and primary data. I found that the approach was transformative. My students developed greater resilience. They had better stress management skills. They looked at relationships in a different way. And it impacted their academic and their personal lives. The benefits of this became more apparent during COVID, because when I was delivering this course online, parents would join in as well. And so after COVID, 2021-22, the students were telling me, Miss, you need to do something. You need to write. You need to be brave. You're telling us to be courageous. You need to do this. The parents, and same with my colleagues, really encouraged me to kind of do it. And for me, it was just, I wanted to not let my students down. I told them I was going to be courageous. So they were holding me to account. And that's what it was, because I can't deny that you doing this intentionally, trying to strengthen the mental health of my students, was making a positive difference to me. And I think everybody needs, because it is something that we're talking about. It is something that we all need. And so the definition is how that provides a framework of the book. So the chapters are like, recognizing strength and managing stress and fostering motivation, and then social influence. Because by using that, we are going to help them to develop. So for me, finding the publisher, it was very intentional. I wanted something that I thought I could do, because there's a lot of self-doubt, and I wanted it to be practical and professional for busy educators. Something, So I came across some of the books, and I thought, okay, maybe I could do this. And so I contacted Delana, who recognized the need for this book, for it to be theoretical and actionable, and she really guided me to be true to my voice, to write in an authentic way, because I was writing it in very, very academic way. So the impact has been great. I've had some really fantastic feedback from teachers, but my favorite feedback is a teacher who said that this book made her feel that she could make a difference in even the small ways, which is for me, that's exactly why I wrote it. Small, actionable things that we can do to have a profound impact. And there's loads of resources on here, TED Talks and summaries and reflection points. And there's a focus on measuring impact throughout. Like you say, Nicola, about trying it out. If it works, then you use it. If it doesn't, try something else out. So there's a lot of impact on doing it this way. It encourages all of us just to, reflect on how we use these practical strategies. But to be clear, the book is not about diagnosis or about illness. Rather it is about strengthening mental health. It's about creating an environment where students and teachers can recognize those 4 things: their abilities, to be able to manage the life stressors of normal life, work productively, and to make a difference in our communities, because school is where it's at. School is where all of this happens. We can make a big difference to the society.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you so much. I'm just going to jump in with some questions, if that's okay, because I think everyone listening can see the threads between inclusion, well-being, and advocacy. That's why I put the 4 authors together, these 4 books. And I want to go back to some of the things you said about how you found your voice. So Nicola and Amjad, I know you both blogged before you wrote a book. Nicola, you referenced that. Let me come to you first. I'm going to come to Amjad about how we kind of find our voice, put pen to paper, write a blog, and then writing a book. Do you want to just reflect on that journey, Nicola, of getting to being published?
Yeah, I think for me, it was following my passion. So often because I knew that it wasn't just teaching that I wanted to do. I wanted to make I wanted to make a difference through teaching, but it was through supporting children and young people's mental health and well-being. So whenever it was not often my non-contact time and the therapist would come in to work with the kids, I would stay and mark my books and listen in the background. And I loved what they were doing, because then I would embed it into my learning and into some of the, so I was doing a lot of therapeutic teaching. I then started to write a blog, so the Journal of Miss H, and we'd do like activities that I'd see the occupational therapists do, like with, like with glitter in water and getting the children to name their emotions based on the colours. And, if they were red, it was angry, blue, sad, simple things like that, particularly for those non-verbal kids. And then I was writing about it in a blog, and it was something that I found just something that I was interested in doing. It didn't feel like work, it was my passion. And some of the blogs ended up getting shared. And through that, I was contacted by publishers, and the publishers liked one of my activities on breathing. And we connected. I sent them a few links, and they've picked that one and said, actually, can we just expand on that? I sent them the book proposal, and we aligned. They wanted a breathing directory, something that was mindfulness related. And because that was my passion, I was doing that anyway on myself. And for my own well-being and mental health, I found that mindfulness was beneficial. So it didn't actually it just felt like quite a natural progression to writing the book. Yeah.
Love that. And the fact that we do a blog, we don't know who's reading it, we don't know what people are looking for, like they're scoping out our voices, they've got an idea of where their gaps are in the directory. So Amjad, there's a few comments in the feed about how do you get a publisher to buy you dinner and pay for your website? you're such a Amjad loves being schmoozed, he's such a wheeler dealer, but come on, just tell people the story about how you got some money up front for your book, please.
I don't know. They contacted me. I don't really know. I guess the thing is, one of the things, and this is kind of systematic of when people ask me, how do I get into speaking? How do I do keynotes and all of those things? Like other people that have been doing it, I know Francis, yourself, have been doing it for a long time. It's not an overnight process. Like us getting to where we are now, we put out thousands of things first, hundreds of things first. Like I wrote a blog new to the post when I first became an assistant head teacher, 11 years ago, and I kept that blog called New to the Post because I feel like we're always new to the post and we're always learning what we're doing, right? I had a free website which I've still got, trythisteaching.com, sharing over 300 low effort, high impact teaching and learning ideas for free in our own time. I'm now revamping that website again because it's 9 years old, spending money on it for people. So this idea of kind of, is it luck or does it just happen, or are you kind of fluky? There's an element of that, of course, but what people don't see is to build the sandcastle, you got to get all the sand together first. And that's what they don't see. They see the end product. So yes, of course, it's nice, but I feel like I put in a shift to kind of get those things. And at one point, I do think at one point people were trying to get me to write a book rather than get a book, if you get what I mean. So they were like, Amjad, we just want you to write a book. And I was like, yeah, but about what and how and where? Because I was so open and on everything, I kind of failed to understand. And I still don't really. People always want you to put yourself in a box and like say, I'm an expert in this, and I'm like, I don't. I have expertise in this and this and this. So people now think I'm a send expert. I never call myself an expert. I say I have expertise, but I also have tons of teaching and learning expertise. Read my blog. Tons of behavior expertise. Read my blog. So that idea of kind of what to write about was kind of limited, but I always refer to send kids as my kids, so not as in my kids that I have at home, but I always say my kids, my kids. So then I was like, I want to write about my kids. So that's kind of how it come about.
That idea, I think you're right about putting it out there, contributing, networking. Amjad has worked the scene. He has organised teach meets, talked at teach meets, travelled over the country, so that you've contributed to the dialogue, and that's then helped you find your verbal voice to then put it into the written form. And I want to link back to you, Francis, because you talked about the power of LinkedIn. I can remember I met Francis at Baymed years ago, but when you left headship, you arrived on LinkedIn, my darling. Like you arrived, and you've really used LinkedIn to find your voice and build your network. And people probably aren't thinking that LinkedIn's a conduit to getting a book deal, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you know what? It's exactly that, Hannah. I remember you were one of the first people that I spoke to when I left headship, because I think the experience just showed me that not everybody always shows up for you. You know, and people are very performative around allyship, you know, and that's why exactly why I called it Be an Ally, Not a Bystander, because people are always saying, I'm an ally, I'll help you. But then when it came to me actually needing help, there was silence from a lot of people. And I just kind of took those experiences and thought, how does that feel for other people where they don't have people to advocate for them, to talk to them about things? And I just decided I was just going to show up as my full self. If people didn't like what I was writing, then that was down to them. But I just decided it was really important for me, from the experiences that I'd gone through as a head teacher and being suppressed somewhat, I would say, in some of the things that I wanted to say, no, I'm going to use my voice in whatever way I can to show up for people. And that's why I say it's really important to say again that people assume as a Black woman, I'm coming from the starting point of race, but it's talking about allyship for all protected characteristics and what that looks like. So yeah, it was just, yeah, just be yourself. Like, I'm not selling anything on LinkedIn. It's like Amjad said, he's put so much work into just producing things for people, saying, have that, you know, this is something that you need, this is something that's helped me, just have that. And that's what I do, just sharing my knowledge about things. So yeah, it seems to work.
Love it. Here's a question then. When Francis and Isaac Akinde going to publish a book, have you talked
you know what? Why do
wife book?
Amjad's the same? Why do people want to see this double act? You know, seriously, we have actually started to do, like, people have been asking us to do podcasts and stuff together. But you know what? I like being married. I like staying married. I don't know whether I should like bring that into my work as well. You know, just no.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Isaac can find
No,
his
she's
voice in his
hiding
own
him.
way.
She's hiding his shine. She's keeping him away from it.
Gosh.
Let me come back to you, Dee. So
Asking.
you talked about like coming from an academic route and like the research, and then you've written a very small book. And I'm curious about how you've gone from like perhaps using lots of words to using less words to distill it. How was that process?
No, I'm saying, like, I do write it very academically, but in this book, Delena said as well, like it is quite a lot of research in here. But I tried to write it in the way I would teach my students, you know, so because I do bring this research into my classroom, so I wrote it in a way that I would teach, and then just distilling it to how am I using this information. One of the key bits was about emotional agility, the new research coming out by Susan David. So I read her books, I read her stuff, and then I go, wait, if I'm teaching year 9, how would I explain this to year 9? And then try to write it in that way, and that seems to work. Yeah.
Love that. Sounds like a good plan to me. That whole idea of, yeah, thinking about who your audience is and how to distill it. Well, I'm going to ask you to do one very quick tip then. So, Amjad, what's one quick tip to the audience about how to put pen to paper and get their voice out there?
Lean on your friends. Like, there's always people that know more than you. So ask them, speak to them. Like, as a Muslim, it's so much easier for me to fast around people that are fasting, right? So much easier for me to be around people that are part of that. So lean on your friend, build up a network. And you know me, Hannah, Francis knows me as well. I'm not great at going and speaking to people and stuff, but the people that know me, I speak to them a lot. So it's that idea of ask them, find out from them, say, can you check this? What do you think? But don't take the mick. Don't expect them to do everything, but ask them. Don't be afraid of that.
Thank you, Amjad. Francis, how about you? What's your one quick tip?
Oh, be yourself, 100%. Just be yourself. Write a book for yourself that you think people will be able to connect with. And if people don't like it, don't take it personally. You're not for everyone. I'm not a massive fan of some music and other people are, but you just have to be yourself and just stick to your authentic voice. Don't try and be anyone else.
And if you follow Francis on LinkedIn, you'll see she's taken on some of her haters who've given her some shade. When you have the, if you're going to give me shade, don't buy my book, don't read it. Come on, people. So thank you for pushing back on that. Nicola, how about you? What's your one quick tip?
Yeah, I was going to actually say, be yourself, be authentic. I would say have some fun along the way. you know, be sure that you're looking after your own mental health and well-being, but enjoy the process. Because if you're writing a book, particularly if you've got like a 80,000 word manuscript that you've got to get in by a certain deadline, make sure you're having fun. It's important, but enjoy the process. Do things that you enjoy. And again, make sure it's a subject that you are passionate about, because it's you that are going to be doing it, and your energy will be will have a ripple effect when it's out into the world. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you're going to have to be able to, like Evelyn was saying, you then get asked to talk about it, to make sure
Yes,
that you want to keep talking about it
exactly.
as well, hey?
And you're enjoying the process, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. V, final point from you. What's your final tip?
I think if you find something that's made a difference to you, and you're passionate about sharing it because you believe it, then gather up the courage. If it's something that's big, it's bigger than you, then you need to do it. Just do it. Gather up the courage, because it's bigger than you are. This is bigger than I am. It's more important
Love
than me.
that. Love that. So can you all hold your books up for the camera, please? Let's just see which books you've birthed. Thank you very much, team. Fantastic to see you all. Appreciate your efforts. Go and enjoy your evenings. And we're going to be back in 60 seconds with panel 3. See you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.